Hello there, my name's Sir Aaron, and today I thought I'd give a little bit of an update on Agora. So you may have seen over the last week or so, I've been posting some playtest videos from our campaign called Hex Gratia. That seems to be going quite well so far, and I've had some good feedback to think about from that already, which is great. There's another 4 or 5 sessions left on that campaign, and that should continue to come out on a weekly basis now. There's also been a number of updates over the last month or so regarding the progress of the SRD and logos and character sheets and lots of other stuff. So I want to kind of talk through what's been going on for the last couple months, and also then talk about some of the problems that I'm currently facing from a design point of view, which I think might be interesting or insightful to anyone who's also designing TTRPGs. So let's start with the SRD. So here on my YouTube channel, this is probably the easiest way to get to the website. So if you go to my YouTube channel and then click on my Twitter handle up here, or at SirArnott, then you'll come to my Twitter, and on Twitter in my website link on my profile, or currently the pinned comment, will take you to publish.obsidian.md/agora. And this is where you'll be able to see a working version of the Obsidian vault that houses my system reference document, and you'll be able to scroll through it and read it publicly. This is all available right now for you to go and read if you want to start learning the game. However, there are some caveats to that. First, this is a work in progress. This is what I would call the first major alpha release, probably the first of 2 alpha releases, and then there'll be like a beta phase and then final release. Though it depends on how well things go. But yeah, that means that there's things that are missing currently. The main thing that's missing is proper character creation rules, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So the game is playable, but it's like playable with a massive caveat, which is like it's basically only playable right now if you are directly involved with the Discord, and you're like asking me questions about how to run the game, which is not ideal, obviously, but we'll get there. Like the ideal state of this game obviously will be to have it so that anyone can pick up and play without needing additional guidance from the creator. That's the whole point of writing. So yeah. But yeah, I wanted to show off this website because I think it's looking quite nice. It's pretty clean. Basically, if the landing page is this sort of brief or blurb for the game. It shows you a little character creation or a little character sheet preview, which you can download or print. And then any of these red links that you see, you can just click on and it will take you to that article, which you can read at your leisure. And if there's anything in this article that you're not sure what it means, like, oh, what's a facilitator? Then you can click on facilitator and it'll take you to the facilitator article, and you can start reading it. And you can think, oh, what's peers? Let's open that in a new tab by like middle mouse button clicking. And then you can see peers and start reading about peers. So it's a very kind of exploratory way of learning the system right now, which I appreciate isn't the best way to learn something. It's a really good way of remembering something, and it's a really good way of referencing things. But when I come to write the book, I will have to sort of reorder this highly non-linear structure into something more linear. But for the moment, it can function, I think, as a like exploratory way of learning. And it may suit some people more than a traditional book, perhaps. We will see. But just to sort of give you an overview of the features, so there's an interactive graph here, which basically shows you the article that you're currently looking at with this big node. And then it has, if you sort of hover over that, it shows you all the links to every other article that references the current article. And then you can also see the links that reference other articles that also reference this article. So for example, Creeds references Facilitator, Creeds also references Fidelity, and Fidelity and Creeds, Fidelity references Agora, for example. So this is like actually not the graph that I was hoping it would display, but I currently don't have control over this graph. I would prefer it personally if the graph that was displayed here was this graph, which is native to Obsidian. But alas, I guess the web app is slightly different. So I'm not actually sure how useful this graph is compared to this graph, where you can actually see the relationships between articles a lot. Well, I say a lot better. It's a mess, but like you can see groupings of articles by like color coding the tags and stuff. So I don't know. I may end up. I guess there's no harm in it being there, other than the fact that it maybe looks intimidating. So I'll see if people like the graph, I'll keep it there. If not, then I can disable it. We've got a table of contents, so if you're reading this is a bad example because I've changed this recently, but yeah, if we're reading about development sessions, for example, we can see the table of contents. So this is just by headers, and it indents the header according to like the size of the header. So this is like H1, H2, this is an embed, and then H3 and so on. And then on the left side here, you've got basically easy access to every article in the website. So maybe you don't really like clicking on these red links, or you just want to read an article and then read the next article, so to speak. Currently, what you have to do is, you finish reading this article, you click back on Agora, which is the like contents page for the whole website, and then you read the next article. So I think we were just on principles. So the next article would be Kismet. We read about Kismet, and each of these are embeds. And then we go back to Agora, and then we can start reading about abilities, for example. So not an ideal user experience right now. I appreciate that, but it's better than nothing. And certainly it suits my writing style at the moment, where a lot of stuff is like being done in Obsidian, and then I can just publish it, which is very nice. So yeah, feel free to explore this website, start reading stuff. If you want, you can start playing the game, but I do think you will need some advice if you want to try to start playing the game right now. So feel free to join the Discord, give some feedback, whatever. I would love that. Cool. Yeah, and then the other thing, sort of big visual update, is I guess also the theme for this website now. I put about 3 days work into writing the CSS file for the Obsidian, and through that, or at the same time, I was also designing this logo. and I really, really like this logo. It's sort of reminds me of, or it kind of has an Art Deco vibe to it, which is what I was going for. Here it is in big. I want it to be kind of inspiring. I want it to like represent the game, obviously. I mean, logo design is a whole other thing. But I basically tried to make a very stylized looking archway with stairs leading up to it and these sort of pillars, similar to a Greek agora, a real agora, like the Agora of Athena or whatever. And an agora is like a meeting place or, you know, public assembly area in an ancient Greek city, which to me feels like it represents the game's kind of open source nature. And another thing is this O symbol here. I loosely styled it after the open source symbol. Let me show you that. Yeah, so it's loosely looks a little bit like that. I may end up closing this a bit more and make it look even more like the open source symbol. But strictly speaking, this is a registered symbol, so I don't want to like rip it off entirely. But speaking of open source, I now also have a GitHub for this whole website. So if you want to, or if you want an offline version of this SRD, you can come to my GitHub and you can download the whole SRD off of here. So this is github.com/sararin/agora. And also you can get the theme for this through Obsidian. So if you, let me show you this. So when you first open a vault in Obsidian, it will look like this. And if you want this to look like Agora, then you'll need to download the Agora Vault off of GitHub, like I just showed you. And then you'll need to come to Settings, Community Plugins, turn Safe Mode off, and then search Community Plugins, or no, sorry, not plugins, Appearance. There we go, Appearance. And then browse Community Themes, type in Agora, and then click on Use. And now the whole theme has changed and everything looks like Agora. The benefit of being in native Obsidian is that you can also switch between dark mode and light mode. So this is the dark mode version of the theme. And, oops. Oh, I don't have the hotkey bound in this vault. Yeah. So that's the dark version of the theme. And then if you want the light version, you come back to Appearance, change it to light, or you can bind a hotkey for that. So yeah, then you can have your Obsidian Vault looking like the website, which is pretty cool. Right, yeah. I'll probably, at some point, I'll probably do a more detailed video explaining how to use Obsidian and stuff, but for now, that should be enough to get most people started if they're really keen. Cool, yeah, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was character assembly, or character creation. And to show off, I guess, the character sheet as well. So I've now made 3 character sheets for this game, or technically 4, but 3 that are like usable. So there is the first one that I made was this one, which is a single page character sheet. So let's open that up and look at it. So yeah, this is like 1 page. This is slightly simplified rules, so it doesn't have space for capabilities, for example, and it only has a little bit of space for jobs. But principles, Kismet, the main stuff, I think I do need to edit this slightly and get rid of walks of life because I've sort of I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, this is the simplified version of the character sheet, which is just print one page kind of summary of everything. And then this is the sort of 2-page spread version. So you'd either print this on a piece of A3 if you've got an A3 printer, or if your handwriting is really small, then you'd print it on A4 and turn it landscape. Or I suppose you could print it with in 2 halves and then like sellotape it together. But I'll probably make another version of this that doesn't have this Kismet bar right down the middle, so that it can be more easily printed in 2 halves. You know, I think generally the more versions of a character sheet you have, the better. And this is closer to the like final version or the intended version of the character sheet that I would expect people to use if they're running a long campaign. Whereas this 1-page one is more for like one-off sessions or like modules. Whereas this one is like, if you're running a long-term campaign, then you'll want a character sheet like this, because what I'll be able to do in the end is also produce sheets that just have jobs on them, or just have assets and gear, or just have specialties or whatever, so that you can add as many of these things as you want and just print off a page of jobs as and when you need it. Although there are only 50 jobs in the whole game, so I'm considering also making a version which just gives you every job already written, and then some space at the bottom for custom jobs. So we'll see. I'll play around with it a little bit more. But yeah, character assembly. Oh yeah, and then the third version. Sorry, the third version is this Google Docs version, which is currently the only like version for playing online. We don't have a VTT yet. It's on my to-do list, but making stuff on websites is hard. So for now, this sort of light Google Sheets version is the only one where you could like share it with people online and be able to see each other's edits immediately. So it's not ideal, but it's better than nothing for now. And I don't think it looks too bad. It's certainly functional. Cool, yeah, so that's character sheets. But character creation has been kind of a bugbear for me, where I keep having sort of chicken and egg problems, where I sort of need to, I want to make a balanced character sheet, or I want you to be able to make balanced characters, or what the system considers a balanced character. But I don't know what a balanced character looks like yet, because we're in the process of playtesting and we're not sure what feels right. And so it's kind of a case of like picking some numbers and hoping that those numbers seem right, and then seeing how it looks and seeing how it feels, and then tweaking those numbers. But then writing the character creation process has also been difficult, because what I really want to do is provide you with what I'm calling flat packs, which are akin to like playbooks, or what's another word for them? Like loadouts. Or I guess they're kind of like character classes, right, in D&D. I've never liked playbook though, because it's always like on a sheet. It's not a book. I guess you could call them play sheets, but yeah, I don't know. Flat pack, to me, the word flat pack seems to make more sense to me, especially because I'm calling character creation character assembly, and so it's like you get a flat pack, and the flat pack comes with instructions on how to make a character of that archetype. And so some assembly is still required, which is kind of fun, I guess. But then I want that process of unpacking and building a character using a Flatpak to be balanced. So I'm trying to like budget things and be like, oh, if you want job levels, it costs this many character assembly points. If you want assets, then it costs another certain amount of character assembly points, and so on and so forth. And now I'm just trying to balance those numbers and figure out, okay, well, what seems like the right amount of caps to give out? And so it's like, do I just make some Flatpaks that seem like they feel right, and then work and then like reverse engineer them and see how much that would have cost in points? Or do I choose a number of points that feels right and exclusively use that to try and build Flatpaks that feel right? It's very much a chicken and egg kind of thing, and I'm really not sure which direction to push in right now. I've just been doing this worksheet thing in LibreCalc to try to think about how much caps cost, or how much things will cost during character assembly, and trying to come up with some numbers that feel reasonable. And like, I thought I would just show off some of these guts, basically, because like there is a lot that goes on behind the curtain, and I have had some questions occasionally now of people saying like, or people asking me like, you know, what's your process, or how do you actually start doing game design and stuff. So I don't know how insightful this will really be, but I thought I would just show it off a little bit. So I use a lot of spreadsheets, basically. I do kind of everything in spreadsheets. It's kind of how I think about stuff. So for example, this is how I wrote the jobs list. So this, let me show you. Like, this is my jobs list in its raw markdown form. It's basically just a bunch of embed files in Obsidian, but then when we preview this, we get to see the embeds. So this is just going to show you every single job in the game. Each of these jobs is its own file in this folder here called jobs. So the author job, for example, is here, and now we can read the whole thing. Or you can click on this link at the top and you'll be able to view it. You can also middle mouse button click to open it on the side, and you can see it there. The shortcut to switch between edit mode and preview mode is Control E, by the way, or at least I have it bound to Control E, so you can swap between the two really easily. So yeah, this is what a job looks like on the website or in Obsidian, but I didn't just write this straight into a markdown file. This began in a spreadsheet here. So here's author, here's the ability that I chose for it, and then here's the description, here's what it requires, here's some suggested specialties, this is its position in a D66 rollable table, and then this mess is basically me converting this, what I've written here in these spreadsheet cells, to basically concatenate using markdown syntax. So I'll just zoom in and so you can see that better. So this is like a lot of ampersands and quotation marks to basically collect this together into something that will be read as markdown. And then if I copy that and tab back into author and paste, then you see it's all there again. And, you know, now we've got author twice, but you can see how I'm doing that now, hopefully. It's kind of a mess, but, and there might be an easier way of doing this, but this is the method that I know. This is how I work, and this is how I think. And it's probably a holdover from both my previous employment and my undergrad as a mathematician. You know, working in Excel is just kind of part of how I work now, so it's just what I'm used to. So, for example, this is the specialties list as a big old mess. And you can see, like, I've written, you know, the use for this specialty, and then a passive use, some examples if it's something that you can like put your own stuff in for, and then again I've done like again here I've done where is it? Yeah, like highlighting in Markdown that I can then copy and paste, and it will appear as a table. So, for example, here, specialties. Specialties, I misspelled that. Let's just go to File Explorer. Lists, specialties list. So here you can see there's a bunch of tables. So that's how I'm working when I'm writing lots of lists. When I'm typing out articles, that's a much different workflow where I'm much more just working straight in Obsidian and typing and just treating it like a normal Markdown file. But yeah, one of the things that I've been kind of reluctantly avoiding so far, I guess, is and I've now hit a point where I'm thinking I have to do this, or I have to break one of these things in order to then like pass through this barrier and then rebuild the stuff that I've broken. Or that's how I feel about it right now. So let me try to explain what I mean. So in character creation, if we're worrying about points to as our method of creation, then there are actually only a few numbers in this game. I think on the surface this game looks very crunchy, but it's probably not compared to most games. I would say first and foremost, Agora is a story game. But yeah, so there aren't many numbers that we care about, but I do want those numbers to make sense. So first we care about job levels. So how many points are you putting into buying jobs? And jobs are how much dice you roll for most important roles in the game, called tasks. Specialties are used to like give you boosts to things after you roll, whereas assets and gear usually give you boosts to things before you roll. So functionally, in terms of the like dice bonus that you get, an asset die is actually quite similar to the mechanical bonus of just having +1 level. But an asset can be applied to many different roles as appropriate, whereas the job level can only be used for roles that involve specifically that job. Whereas if you had an asset like a reputation for being greedy or something, then you could have that could help you in multiple situations potentially. So there is more versatility to having an asset die versus having a job level. So it's like trying to balance those things. And then gear is where I now feel I need to break something before I can carry on, because gear works similarly to assets, where gear gives you bonus dice, but then gear also has tags, and the tags kind of have extra effects. So whereas assets are much more narrative, and like the application of an asset is just kind of like, oh, I feel like it should be used here, and if your FC or GM agrees, then you can use it. Whereas gear is much more like, you know, you can only use certain bits of gear in certain specific scenarios, and the tags help to define those scenarios. And most of those scenarios in which you use tags are combat related, or conflict related at least. So I haven't written a gear list yet, but I've written a tags list, and I've tried to imagine what sort of scenarios it would be fun to use that kind of gear in, or what I'm trying to imagine what kind of gear might have these kinds of tags. So, for example, to make a piece of gear into armor, you give it the armor tag, if it's not already obvious. From like, if you write iron or steel full plate on your character sheet, then that's pretty obvious that that's armor. So you don't need to explicitly give it the armor tag unless it's not clear. And so there's like this implicit tag system, or like there's hidden tags on items potentially. You only need to write the tags that are obvious, or sorry, other way around. You only need to write the tags that aren't obvious. And so, but because tags can do things like armor will help protect you potentially from bad things that want to hurt you, that is like giving you information. Or like damage type, if that's a thing that you care about in your game. Or what's another thing? Like, yeah, open-ended, right? This is a really big deal. This makes the dice explode, which is like amazingly useful. And then not all tags are good, right? This is a good tag, piercing. It will ignore armor. So I'm beginning to imply like, oh, there's an interaction here just through these tags. But then, yeah, not every tag is good. Like limited use is you can only use this so many times. What's another one? Dangerous, I think. Yeah, dangerous. There's a chance when you use this that it will explode or backfire or hurt you in some way. Or broken, right? Like if it's broken, then you can only use it one more time before it is completely destroyed. And so it's a broken thing is something that you either need to get repaired or you keep around for like just in case, but then it really is destroyed and gone forever. So like there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of like implied things with these tags, but it's quite vague at the moment because I don't have anything to explicitly reference to use these tags on. And so part of me is thinking, well, when I write the gear list, I need the price of gear in caps in these like character creation points to be related to the number of to the number of tags that it has. So if a piece of gear like some like sword, like magic sword, gave you like a +1 die, and then it has like tags like magic and piercing, then that's gonna cost more in caps. That should cost more in caps than like a sword that's breakable and heavy or something, right? Like those are bad things, that those are drawbacks. So it's very, very abstract at the moment, and it's hard to really decide like what the value of these things are in that abstract way. And so part of me is thinking, well, okay, I need to write. I have my tags list, and this is very vague at the moment. In order to kind of really know how to use these tags and which ones of these are useful, because honestly, these are all hypothetical right now. They're just sort of what I happened to think of when I wrote the list. In order to like really make use of the tag system, I should probably start writing the gear list. And don't worry about pricing the gear list yet. Just write the gear list. You know, what does armor look like in this game? How many dice is it? What tags does it have? What do various weapons look like? How many dice do they have? What tags do they have? What do like machines or vehicles look like using tags? Because like everything that is not an abstract asset in this game is gear. And gear is constructed entirely out of dice and tags, basically, and then a little bit of flavor to like explain what it is if it's not clear from the tags or the name of the item. Which makes it incredibly flexible, but that flexibility comes at the like creative labor cost for me. And so I'm also thinking, well, before I can write the gear list, I need to know what that gear can be used for. And most gear is used in conflicts, cases where you're going to be rolling a lot more dice a lot more frequently. And so that kind of means that I need to write a combat system or a magic system or some other like conflict resolution system, which I wasn't actually expecting to have to do yet. But I'm realizing more and more, and I think this is like the thesis statement of this video. So if you're a designer, like this is the important information now. I'm realizing that character creation and the process of character creation and writing your character creation rules is like writing a tutorial in a video game. I think it's a Shigeru Miyamoto quote about Mario, but it applies to all games really, is like the first level in a video game is the last one you design before release. That, or it's something like that. That's probably a misquote, but that's the idea, right? Once you actually know what your game is and you know how the game is supposed to be played, or how you want the game to be played, then you need to teach the player how to do that. And the only way you can do that is by having the game finished. And this is where I'm like running into this barrier again with character creation, because like I'm beginning to realize and feel that character creation is the equivalent of that in tabletop games, where when you make a character, you're also learning the game and you're learning what's important in this game and you're learning how to like, you need to be told what to care about during character creation so that you can make informed decisions and make a character that is both balanced and also representative of the character that you actually want to play that fits your concept. And so in order to do that adequately, you need to know, like the game needs to be telling you or signaling to you at least, like these are the things that are important to the game and this is where you should be focusing your attention. But I can't tell you that until I have the whole rest of the game written, arguably. And Yeah, like this is where I've been struggling for a little while now, because I released the SRD a couple weeks ago now on Reddit. And a lot of the feedback, well, some of the feedback was good. Some of it was fairly critical, which was fair. But honestly, the biggest takeaway from me was like people saying this isn't really an alpha because I can't make a character. Um, and my response is like, well, I can't make a character until I finish the game, and I can't finish the game until you can make characters. So it's like, it's a really, really, it's such a paradox. It's such a paradox, and it's something that's been very frustrating to deal with. I think it's been the most frustrating part of the design process so far, and not one that I was actually anticipating. Um, so it's about order of operations, really, but um, and I've been trying to be organized about it, but this is where I'm saying like, I need to break something, right? I need to pick a thing and design it the way I want to design it, right? And then see what that breaks. So if I pick combat, for example, if I say, okay, I'm going to design combat, I'm going to work out how combat works, and then and I'm not going to pay attention to anything else. I mean, obviously, I'm going to use the systems that I've designed, but in regards to how tags work, in regards to how gear works, in regards to my thoughts on how I think character creation is going to work, I'm just going to ignore all of that for a little while. Design the combat system or the magic system or whatever I choose the way that I want it to work with the core mechanics of the game, like tasks and checks and stuff. And then once that's done, examine what that broke. So if if I work out, oh, actually, using gear in combat may not actually be that important at all. And if that's the case, then this whole tag system might have to get reworked or maybe even deleted. And so yeah, it's basically just a question of what do I want to break, what am I willing to break, and what's more important to me? Do I write tags and write gear and then write a combat system that works with the way that I've written gear? Or do I make a combat system first and then make gear that suits the combat system? I don't know yet. I'm kind of proud of this tags list. And this, there's no right answer here. I should stress, like, because it's this effect of like what I call falling out of solution or precipitating out of solution, which I think is a chemistry term originally, but I use it to basically mean like it's a discovery process. So if I write tags and gear a certain way, that may imply that a certain kind of combat system would suit the way that I've written tags and gear. Whereas if I write combat first, then that might imply another system or a different system from what I originally envisioned for how tags and gear working. And yeah, something's gonna break is my point, and that's sort of what I was trying to get at. So things are gonna break, and I need to like come to terms with that, and then bite the bullet and just design the thing that I'm afraid of designing almost, and see how it turns out, and then see what it breaks, and then fix the things that broke, or discard them and change them for new things. It's a complicated process. It is like not something that I was, like I said, not something that I was fully expecting, and something that's been, yeah, kind of a bugbear for the last few weeks. And I'm at this point now where I feel like I have to talk about it. So hopefully, to anyone else who's a designer or anyone who's watching this years later and wondering, why is the combat system or the Gear and tag system, the way it is. Well, maybe here's your answer. I don't know. We will see. And yeah, playtesting will help, obviously, as well. And I'm very glad that our playtesting campaign has now begun. And you can watch that, like I said, on my channel. There'll be videos about that coming out every week now. The session sort of videos on demand or VODs. They're about 3 or 4 hours each, and at least an hour of that is like system discussion at the end. So like the rate of dice rolls happening in that game, because we've ended up making it quite a social political game, is actually quite low, which means that things like if I had a combat system yet, for example, then like we probably wouldn't test it in that campaign because it just wouldn't make sense. So writing a playtest scenario that actually tests the things you want to test is important too. In the case of Hex Gracia, in the case of Hex Gracia, I do think I am testing the right things with it, even though it's a slower paced game. Because what I'm mainly testing with Hex Gracia is game feel. So, do checks and tasks feel appropriately weighty? Does the difference between them make sense? Is the way that we're calculating difficulty make sense? Are consequences clear enough? What's another thing that I'm testing? And what else? Yeah, like do all of the parts of your character sheet make sense and feel relevant? Does the way that you earn Kismet make sense or feel good, etc.? Does the rate of burning through resources and then regaining those resources feel good? Does the rate of character experience earning feel good? And currently, I think character experience rate is too slow, but we'll see. So like, there's a lot of just like core mechanical game feel stuff that I want to determine through those playtests that can only be determined over several sessions rather than in with the same characters, rather than running lots of one shots, which is how I did the pre-alpha stuff with the King is Dead scenario. And in the case of designing character sheets or the characters for that campaign, it really was a case of just like pick some numbers that I think feel right, and see what these characters look like. Does that look like it's probably enough or too much? I don't know. Let's just try it and find out. So the characters, depending on what balance changes I make in the next 2 or 3 months to character creation, it may be that the characters that we're playing in that playtest campaign are either massively underpowered or massively overpowered. Who knows? We'll find out. But yeah, speaking of King is Dead, the pre-alpha playtest scenario, I'm hoping in December to basically do a vertical slice using that playtest scenario. So what that means is I will do a mock-up of what's it called? Yeah, I'll do a mock-up of like what the book might look like, and I'll probably make some art which kind of fits the theme of the scenario, and I'll sort of do the layout and formatting and stuff and get it into like a nice printable PDF form, and then release that for free on itch.io and just like start getting some feedback. And I'll produce it in a way that introduces just the rules that you need to run it, but using the system of Agora. So you'll get the character sheets, you'll get like a rules summary page, you'll get this, the FC will get the scenario for them to run, and then they'll be like, I'm hoping to keep it short, like 10 pages at most, of like, here are the cool core rules, here's how you resolve certain things, here's some scenarios that could come up during the demo, and here's how you can resolve them. Just really, really simple stuff. But just to get a good idea of what the finished book and the finished game will look like. And that should also work as like kind of advertisement and interest for the main game as well. If the playtest scenario is fun as like a standalone game, then being able to say, hey, there's a deeper game that this is based on that's currently in development, and you can come and have a look at it if you want. I think that could be fun. And so that'll be my like mini project for December. And I'm hoping to like make a trailer and stuff for it as well. So we will see. It's a busy schedule. And I think that's the last thing I'll show is my sort of to-do lists. So I have 3 to-do lists that I work from on a daily basis as I write this. So the first to-do list is this one, which is basically looking at individual articles in the Obsidian vault, and highlighting like, okay, whenever I like add an unfinished tag where I am telling myself, oh, there's a paragraph here you haven't written, or there's an example here that you need to write, or you didn't finish actually explaining this thing, you need to come back. Anytime I am in that situation where I'm stumped while I'm writing, I'll just do #unfinished, and then I'll come to this to-do list and I'll add a new thing here. This is a Kanban board, by the way. This is an Obsidian add-on that you can get for free. It's just a plugin. And then I'm able to kind of keep track of everything that has an unfinished tag in it. And then when I'm feeling like coming back and writing that thing, then I'll do it. Once I've done it, I can move it into the finished pile, like that, for example. Similarly, if I'm reading something that I wrote like a week or 2 ago, or if I'm reading back a rule or something, I might decide, this doesn't read so well, or this doesn't read the way I wanted it to, or some other rule has changed that now affects this new thing. I'll do #rewrite, or sometimes I think I do #edit. I'm not super consistent on that. And that tells me, and then I'll again add a card here to say, hey, come back to this later and see if you can fix it. And then these 2 lists are like new articles that need to be written. So for example, I need to write about how to use NPCs and how to run NPCs, and part of that article will probably also involve like talking about doing accents and stuff. I need to write about how to pitch and plan games and design scenarios. I need to talk about downtime as a mechanic. So these are like things, high priority articles that need to be written fairly soon. And then these are much lower priority articles that need to be written. And some of these are like, needs, right? The game needs these things in the higher priority list to be playable, whereas the game wants some of these things in the lower priority list, or in some cases it does need them, but they're not like, they're not high priority. They can be written during the beta potentially. So for example, in regards to what I was talking about earlier, like I would probably move this combat subsystem to be high priority now, because I think the gear, or maybe the gear list, I'll work out which one to write next. But once I've made that decision, and then once that's done, this can get moved to finished, and so on. So this is just like such a useful tool for staying organized, and every day I can just look at this and be like, what needs doing? So this is almost a daily to-do list. Then I have like a monthly, or no, a weekly level to-do list, which is this one. And this is more of a creational oversight. So there are some things in this priority list that are articles that need to be written. So for example, we've got character assembly needs to be written, campaign structure, debriefings. But then I also have like here, make a YouTube video. Hey, that's what I'm doing right now. So I'll tick that, for example. Um, then I've got, oh, I need to write lists. So, hey, that isn't even on here. I need to write a gear list. So I'll add that. And there is some crossover between this list and the other to-do list, but this is just like slightly more broad stuff. So what's another thing I've done? Sci-fi play session 2, which was finished yesterday, and then sci-fi play session 3, which will be next week. Yeah, so this is more like I'll check on this every week, whereas I check on this the first one, wherever it went. Here it is. I'll check on this every day usually. And then my kind of monthly oversight is on GitHub. So on my profile, projects, Agora TTRPG, this is like from a really broad perspective. This is looking at whole chapters now instead of individual articles. So like a chapter 1, essential rules and info, the core system is basically done, and it more or less works the way that I want it to work. There are a few articles to edit, in here. There are a few things to tweak, but like the majority of the writing is done for chapter 1, for example. Whereas like chapter 6 with appendices, or some of the subsystems like combat, these are not written yet. And so this is like front end to do. So this is stuff that the end user will actually see that still needs doing. So I think, game trailer, examples, demo session. And then there's back end stuff that needs doing as well, like finding a printer, making promotional materials and press kit, working out my licensing information. Like I've said, it's Creative Commons, but I need to like actually give some more guidance than just saying it's Creative Commons. And I need to give some guidance on how to use the logo and stuff. I need to do beta playtesting in January. I need to either find art or make it myself or get other artists involved, and I need to budget that. I still need to make a profit and loss sheet to work out, is this whole endeavor actually even a good idea? Making the like SRD in a manuscript form is a pretty important back-end step. But the end user isn't going to care about that. They're going to care more about the fully formatted version of the document. And making a website. Technically I have a website now, right? I have the SRD, but this is just Obsidian. This is basically just a weird wiki. So I need a proper website as well, which I'll be getting to at some point. So yeah, this is like, hopefully this has been useful if you're a designer. This is probably not useful to anyone that's a player of Agora. But yeah, I thought I'd just sort of show off like how I'm thinking about stuff, where I am, what I'm stuck on, and what's coming up over the next few months. Looking back, my original claim, I think in the first video when the system was still called Venus or Evening Star, I made a very bold claim in that video that I would have the game mostly done and playable within a month or two. And we're now at month 6. And it's looking like it'll probably still be another 6 months. So yeah, massively underestimated that. I worked out. I have this thing called Activity Watch, which is a really handy little plugin. Highly recommend it if you're a like productivity person. But I worked out using Activity Watch that I've now spent over 500 hours working on Agora, which is quite a big milestone to pass. And I'd say we are, in some ways it feels like we're not even halfway done, but in other ways it feels like we're more than halfway done. So 500 hours, if there's another 500 hours left, that feels like a good place to be right now. So I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, again, hopefully this has been insightful or interesting. Yeah, if you've watched this far, and you just heard me say 500 hours, and you're beginning to appreciate how hard it is to make these games, then please consider supporting me on Patreon or making a one-time donation on Ko-fi, or Ko-fi, or Ko-fi, or however you say it. Links are in the description if you want to support me monetarily. If you can't afford to, don't worry about it. This product will always be free at the point of access. Giving me money for it is just a bonus, really. And if you can't afford to donate to me, that's fine. But if you still want to help promote the game, or if you still want to help help out in some way, then join our Discord. Links in the description again, or I think it's like right there. It's been there the whole video. Just type that in. Come on our Discord, say hello. There's a pretty active discussion there about Agora most days. And you'll be able to see like previews of stuff that I'm working on more regularly. And if you know anyone else who's like a game designer, or who's just interested in this sort of stuff, or you think this is like their kind of game, then let them know about it. Share this video with them. Give it a like. Comment if you've got any questions, all that jazz. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll make videos more regularly, but it's quite exhausting for me to make videos like this, so we'll see. It might be another few months before there's another video like this, or it might be a few weeks, who knows. But my plan actually is to get more like how to play style videos up eventually, or soon. I don't know, whenever. I'll be making how to play videos at some point, which will be shorter and like more focused rather than like rambly. They'll be scripted, and they might even be animated. I don't know yet. We'll see. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time.